the challenges that I faced growing up and things like that is the first important thing is you are good enough, and just knowing that, because in business, as you know, you are going to face so many obstacles and so many challenges, and sometimes you get hit with these obstacles and challenges and you start to question, are you good enough?
Welcome to the I Own It podcast with Ben Reinberg.
We are live in Laguna Beach, California at the Ben Reinberg I Own It studio today. We have an incredible guest today. I've been waiting for quite some time for him to come on. This gentleman has helped some of the largest brands and celebrities in the world reverse engineer how to make content go viral. So if you like branding and you like social media, this is your guy you want to pay attention to. He and his team and his company have generated 60 billion views and 100+ million followers for the content they've worked on. That's incredible. He developed the first ever influencer campaign on YouTube in 2007. He's generated over $1 billion in revenue. He's been featured on numerous publications. He's a speaker. He's an author of best-selling books. Brendan Kane, welcome to the show. You own it. That's why I wanted you on this show. So welcome, and it's great to see you. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ben. It's a true pleasure to connect with you and everybody that's tuning into this.
Great. All right, well, let's get started. So one of your books is called Hook Point, How to Stand Out in 3 Seconds. Can you share more about today's micro attention and what it takes to be successful at marketing in a world where your audience is consistently and constantly scrolling?
Yeah, so the first place to start is to really understand the world that we live in today. So I started in social media in 2005, and I can remember I was, to date myself, when I started, it was Friendster and MySpace. So at that time, there's a few million people on these platforms. Today, there's 4 billion people on social media. So that's 4 billion people with the potential of clicking a button, publishing something to the world. And there's about 200 billion messages that are sent out into the world every day. Thus, it makes it extremely noisy to really stand out. So when we talk about, how to stand out in this micro attention world, it's really about how do we stop the scroll? How do we grab that attention those first few seconds so that they will pay attention to the story we want to tell them, to the value that we can provide to them? Now, when we talk about a micro attention world, once you have their attention, you can hold it. It's not that they're micro attention like they only can consume content that's 15 or 30 seconds long, because there's plenty of examples of people binge watching Stranger Things on Netflix or listening to a 2.5-hour podcast. So the attention span is there. It's just your ability to grab it in those first few seconds to have the ability to win the rest of the attention for that core audience or customer that you're going after.
Well, that's great. So, Brendan, many of our listeners have businesses or personal brands, but haven't invested significantly heavy in marketing with someone like you. In your perspective, when is someone ready for that marketing investment? And I know I spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on marketing and social media. When do you feel it would be ready to hire someone like yourself?
Well, I think first and foremost, you have to have a solid business in place. Is the business, does it have product market fit? Are you generating revenue? Once you know that, then really we say to engage the right person as early as possible. And the reason I say that is it can save you a tremendous amount of time, energy, resources, making mistakes and wasting time going down the wrong direction. And that's a big part of what we do and what our team does is we really dial in what is that strategy, what is the content strategy, what are the formats, what are the nuances to making those formats successful, so you don't go off on this tangent producing a bunch of content, spending weeks or months or sometimes years and not yield the results that you get, and then burn yourself out, burn your team out, or just get deflated on the actual potential of a channel like social media.
If you have a social media manager, do you feel that it's not about quantity, it's about the quality? It's that social media really need to understand the platform, the algorithms, understand hashtags, how to label it, really become an expert. And so I see a lot of people want to do a lot of content because they're making up for the shortcomings of the person managing the social media account. Do you see that a lot with clients out there, and why they come to you is that they're looking for a change and saying, yeah, I don't need as much quantity, I just need quality?
Well, it's a great point, and the reality of what we see is most people are told that frequency is the key to success, but it's just simply not. It is quality over quantity, and the reason is I'll give a brief explanation of the algorithms because algorithms control your success or lack thereof. It controls reach and distribution of your content. It dictates whether 1,000 people see your content or 1 million people see your content, and the algorithms really care about one thing and one thing only, and that is user retention. Meaning, the longer people spend on these platforms, the more ads they can serve, the more profit they generate. In addition, the more time they spend on their platform, they're not spending it on a competitor's platform. So, why would an algorithm favor a content creator just because they're producing more content? Because there's 4 billion people across these platforms producing billions of pieces of content. It's not like they're, hurting for content. They have so much to choose from. So what they really want, and they truly want to be our best friends because we are their product, but they want content that they can seed to as many people as possible and grab and hold that attention. Now, I will say that the trap that people fall into is frequency, as we just mentioned, but then they also fall into these other traps of focusing on hashtags, time of day, things of that nature. When in the reality, the only thing that you have to focus on is how do you construct the most effective story? How do you really dial in a format and become world class at that? Because it's all about the content, it's not about anything else. And if you are not a great content creator, and we can talk about what that actually means to be a great content creator, then I don't care how many social media managers you have, how many pieces of content you produce, what time of day, what hashtag you use. It's not going to get you over the hump of really breaking through and reaching the highest levels on these platforms.
Well, let's expand on that. So, can you share your perspective on marketing ROI, and how do you think about measurement, success, and timelines? And how do you think about monetizing things like views, likes, etc.? And how do you tend to handle attribution? I mean, these are questions that I've been asked numerous times, and I've been wanting to ask you because it seems to come up on everyone's mind.
Yeah, so there's different answers to those questions. In I'll delineate between organic and paid because they're completely different communication channels that dictate the answers to those questions. So with paid marketing, it's far more straightforward. You're paying for an ad and you measure that ROI. And typically you should really know what your CPA should be, what your lifetime value is with that customer so that you know what you can really spend and what that ROI should look at. Now, if you're in the very beginning, you're going to have to guess, but you need some type of benchmark there. Um, but with that, it's far more straightforward. Of I put $1 in, I expect $3 in return. Uh, with organic, it's a bit different, because it's not with organic. You're not making a direct sale. You are building trust, you're building credibility, you're building a connection with that potential customer to then earn the right to make a sale. And this is a huge mistake I see with a lot of brands is they're treating organic social as if it's, your advertising. So what they're doing is they're posting product shots. Like we've worked with vitamin companies, vitamin supplement companies, some of the biggest in the world, and it drives me nuts because they post a photo of a vitamin bottle. And it's like, who logs onto social media that says, I want to see a great photo shoot of a vitamin bottle? So it's really, with organic, it's much different in that. In that ROI, you still should have an ROI, but there's levels of scale with it. Now we've worked with certain clients that use zero paid advertising and completely sell out of inventory just because they nailed organic. There's other clients that don't do any organic and they just master paid and they build massively successful businesses. So what I'm trying to say is there's no one single way to do it. There's variables that you should take into consideration and make sure it's actually moving your company going forward. But it's not like there's a one size fits all answer to like, this is what it should be, this is what it has to be in order to be successful. I hope I answered that question. And if you want to follow up
I
with
think
more poignant ones.
I think no, I think you answered it brilliantly. So I appreciate it. So let's go even further. So when you start working with a new client, where do you believe you tend to add the most value to them? And can you share a few examples?
Yeah, so we're working a lot with clients on their organic strategy because, like, and one of the things I didn't tackle was attribution. As you know, with paid and the privacy updates, iOS 14 updates, the issues with the Trump and Clinton election, of what that kind of revealed, completely, transformed the level of targeting, granularity that you can go to, and then iOS 14 created issues with attribution. There are solutions to that, but from a paid marketing perspective, it's just gotten harder. So what we see a lot of clients looking for is organic to help supplement that paid and make it more effective, or get better at organic so that they can drive sales that way. So really what our core specialty is, as you mentioned in the introduction, is reverse engineering virality. And when we talk about virality, virality can mean many different things. For some people, it's like, how do I get my baseline of views from 1,000 to 10,000? Some people, it's from 10,000 to 100,000. Some people, it's 100,000 to a million, and so on and so on. So when I talk about virality, I'm not saying that you as a business have to have a million followers and be generating tens of millions of views a month. It's all about, how do you get your content to rise above the noise? And the biggest challenge that we find with people in creating content, in trying to master social media, is they're not putting a lot of thought into what it means to be a good storyteller on these platforms. So what we do is we analyze publicly available data on social media around specific formats, specific trends, specific ways of telling story. And what we do is we look at the highest performers in that format. So to give you an example, I'm sure some of you have seen this format we call two characters, one light bulb. And it's the same person having a conversation with each other about a subject matter. So they kind of go back and forth, but it's the same person. So when we break down a format like that, the highest performers are probably doing 30 to 50 million views of video. But then there's people using that exact same format generating 1,000 views of video.
Mm.
And what our team does is a qualitative analysis of what are the contextual elements or the ways that they're using this format, telling this story, that is different than the people that are not being successful with it. Because the reality is, any subject matter can go viral on social media. Taxes go viral, insurance goes viral, medical goes viral. We've even seen concrete go viral, like anything. It's just the way that you contextualize that story, your expertise, to make the average person care about what you have to say. So really where we come in and help is getting that detail of granularity, helping a client identify what is the right format for the right platform. And then once we have that, what are the specific nuances to how you execute on that to ensure that you have the best chance of success with it? So to give you an analogy, is I'm sure everybody listening to this has watched a movie in their life. Well, the interesting thing is, I started in the movie industry. 99% of movies follow the same 3-act structure. So and for people that don't know that 3-act structure, it's just the way that the story is told. But they all share this exact same structure. Yet one night, we can be sitting down with our family or our loved one, and you finish that movie, and that is the worst movie I have ever seen. And then the next night, you could sit down with your loved one, and it's like, that is the best movie I've ever seen. But they're using the exact same structure. So what's the difference? Well, the difference is the directing, the acting, the dialogue, the lighting, the cinematography. It's the same thing with social media content in the stories that we tell. It's those nuanced details that dictate whether our videos get 1,000 views versus 10 million views.
Do you feel it's all based, the foundation is that emotion you pull out of people, why it creates virality, so to speak? It's that emotion that, with the context you're claiming, is that will pull out the emotion. The emotion drives traffic, drives feelings, and potentially sales of products. Is that really what this is about?
Well, that's
Is
one
human
element.
nature?
That human nature is a big part of it. But so let me dive in even and deeper into our process. So we have a communication algorithm, and this communication algorithm is based on a data set of 1.5 million communication assessments done worldwide. And what it does is it breaks down the 6 different ways that people can perceive your content, perceive your brand, and whether they can become motivated to engage with you. And it's pure math. So the largest subset of the population, as you just mentioned, is feelings based. It's 30%. So those people make decisions, whether they're going to watch something, buy something, follow something, share something, based upon how it emotionally makes them feel. The second largest subset of the population, 25%, is fact based. So for them, it's not about feelings at all. Does this make sense? Who, what, when, where, why? They want to know the information behind it. The third largest, 20%, is fun based. So they just want to know, is this going to be fun? Is this going to be exciting? I don't want to be bored. I don't want to say this sucks. I want to say this is awesome. Like, they're reacting to things. 10% is values based. So they want to know, are you dedicated? Are you committed? Can I trust you? Another 10% is reflection based. So the best way I can describe that is, if you've ever heard stories about Albert Einstein, what he would do for days on end is just stare out the window and reflect on everything around him to come up with his ideas. So they're very directive, but they're often reflecting on all the things that you tell them to do. And then 5% is action based. They don't think, they don't feel, they just go. They just want the best. They want to move fast. So the best analogy I have for that is, if you've ever seen Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible, he's running the entire movie. He's jumping off of planes and buildings and things like that. So when we look at storytelling, yes, emotion plays to the largest subset of the population, but then there's a significant percentage that's fact-based and a significant percentage that is fun-based. So we look at it from those variables to construct a well-rounded story. Now, Pixar uses this in all of their script writing. So that's when, if you ever sit down and watch a Pixar movie like Inside Out with the characters in the girl's head, there is a character designed for each way people perceive content and perceive the world. So emotion, yes, is a big driver, but it's not the only driver. And if you look at virality, and like the top people doing it, there's, content that is, really fact-based, but layers in emotion and layers in fun. And then there's content that leads with fun and then layers in facts and layers in emotions. So it's really having a well-rounded balance of, connecting with the way that people want to consume content and engage with brands.
That's a great answer. So, can you share more about how digital marketing has tried and true formulas? You wrote, so for example, you wrote books about including the YouTube formula and how I built 1 million followers in 30 days. So say hypothetically, you were to help me in my brand, my personal brand, and build my personal brand. What's the hypothetical formula you'd execute on?
So everything starts with understanding what is the message, what is the story you want to tell, and then choosing the right platform for that. And then once we've decided that, then it's all about research. So what we're going to do is we're going to go out and research people in your industry, but also outside of your industry, to identify what is the specific format that we are going to focus on and get really good at. I don't want to be creating multiple formats at the same time. I want to focus on one format. And then what we do is we do that analysis, what I mentioned, of looking at that single format and see who's doing the best at it and then who's doing the worst at it, and really break down those differences. So we have over 50 different performance indicators that we're looking at from a contextual nature. So again, it's things like pacing, editing, tonality, number of edits, first 3 seconds, captions, title cards. So, that 2 characters, 1 light bulb format I mentioned, of the 2 characters are the same person having conversation with each other, that format's used for every, industry. I've seen lawyers do it, doctors do it, nutritionists do it, financial experts using it. So we're not looking at the actual content of it. We're looking at, what are the elements that they're using in those top performers that are not showing up in those low performers, because that will save us a tremendous amount of time, energy, and effort. But it also creates a baseline for us to benchmark ourselves against, so that when a social media manager, whoever produces that piece of content using it, we can clearly, put it side by side with the high performer and, make sure that we did actually integrate those performance drivers in the right way to ensure our level of success.
How do clients engage you, or they engage a social media agency or a social media agent to help them with their branding and their social media? What are the metrics, and how do you keep a social media manager or a personal brand company accountable? How do you see it, and how do people work with you to hold your staff accountable to make sure they're getting results, that they're getting either a return on their investment or they're getting what they're promised? Because it's a big issue with a lot of people that are not in your space, that are in business, saying, well, we have processes in our company, we're wildly successful, but a lot of social media managers, some of them are not really business people and they're still learning business. How do you hold them accountable?
Well, I think you need to hold them accountable for the things that they can control. When we're working with a client, our sole responsibility is to figure out the best way to contextualize a message to have it break through. And, if you're looking in the same thing with the social media, but is not our responsibility or the social media's responsibility to make sure that sales are generated from it. Now, we want to create a strategy that plays into that, but there's so many variables that are out of our control or your social media manager's control. Like, for example, let's just say it's a high ticket item that you have to close over the phone. Well, you need to make sure that the sales team's good. They know how to nurture those leads. They know how to convert. If it's an e-commerce play, is your landing page set up for organic traffic? Is the retargeting set up? Is the LTV there? Is the email sequence in there? So really, when I look at social media, it's it's not a black and white thing. I want to understand, are we effectively reaching the masses with the messages that we're producing? So, and I'll give you examples. Like, we worked with a multi-billion-dollar corporation that has a 100-person marketing team, and their average post is generating 100 likes. They're probably investing upwards of $50 million a year in content. I mean, that's just not okay. Because I work with solopreneurs that are generating millions of views a month, hundreds of thousands of likes and engagement per month. Now, in terms of how that plays into the business, there's multiple ways that that can play into the business. There's ways that social media can be leveraged. You can be building audience organically to use it as a retargeting to then make a direct response sale. You can be building audience to build brand and awareness so that it leads to larger partnerships, strategic opportunities with the business. Or you can leverage organic to really figure out, how do I earn and win that trust, where then it correlates to a sale. And I'll give you some examples of that last one. Mr. Beast is probably the biggest influencer on the planet right now. Across his channels, he has 200 million subscribers. There was just an announcement that his company's valued at $1.5 billion. His Mr. Beast burger that he launched during COVID did $100 million last year. That is purely organic, and the only reason is because he is such an effective storyteller that he gets his audience to buy into him, feel connected to him, that when it's time to make a sale or announce something that he's passionate about, he's not just hawking anything, that it drives success. Or you look at like a Kim Kardashian or a Kendall Jenner. No matter what you think about them and reality TV stars, they spent years cultivating a relationship with their audience and fan base. And when they launched their own companies, they became billionaires because that person was bought in. So that's why I know a lot of people look for a black and white answer, but there's not a black and white answer to it. I would just say, like you said, if a business is super successful already, I ask, why are you getting into social media, and what are your expectations, and how much are you willing to invest in it? Not necessarily from a financial standpoint, but just being patient, the time, because social media is it's a very nuanced thing. You're fighting against 4 billion other content creators. Everybody thinks social media is so easy because you can just open up a phone, click record, and post something. But that's also the specific reason that it's a challenge.
Well, it's low barriers to entry, Brendan, because it's free. No
Yeah.
one now they'll charge you to advertise, but to post, I mean, anyone and their kids can post. So you've worked with some real interesting clients like Rihanna and Taylor Swift and Adriana Lima and IKEA and Paramount. The list goes on and on. MTV, Viacom, Vice Magazine, you name it. What is it like working with big brands that have already had a lot of success? I know you touched on it a little bit, but where do you tend to focus on these kind of projects to add the most value when they have like a tremendous amount of success already?
Yeah, the first place I start is what are their goals that they have, because every company has goals and continuing to grow, and what are the challenges that they're facing to hit those goals. And that can tell me a lot about where there's opportunity, but more importantly, how the individual, whether it's a celebrity or an executive, views the business, views the brand. Because you can come in with a solution that they don't believe is valuable, and if you don't meet them on the level of where they think they're at and what their challenges are, you're going to have a huge issue in trying to work with them in order to drive success. And like with any client, I think the biggest thing that I look at this stage in my career and stage in my business is we're not we don't really care if it's a celebrity or a huge company. We care about the mindset. We want to work with people that are really bought in and willing to do what it takes to be successful, because that's the determining factor of whether we can help or not. We can't do all of the lifting for you. At some point you've got to step in and take our guidance, take our insights and execute on it. And we're always there to support along the way. But mindset is such a critically important thing, especially when it comes to social media, because a lot of people think it should be a lot easier than it really is.
No, that's understandable. I appreciate that. So we're all works in progress. And can you share an example where you didn't own it and you had it wrong and you said, man, I got to get my shit together. I don't own it right now. And was there an example in your life that turned you around that you could share?
I mean, there's so many examples in life. That's how you learn and get good.
Do you want
You
to sit on the couch and we have some therapy here, or
Yeah,
just an
I
example?
think I could use that.
Yeah,
Um,
I think we all can.
yeah, I mean, I think that, there's a few times in my career where I was just super early and didn't stick with it because it was super early. Like building that influencer technology platform, we built it like 2007, 2008, and I just got anxious and stressed out because it was performing in the people we were working with, but there wasn't really a market for it. And I wasn't at that age, and I still struggle with this today. I wasn't patient. I was like, oh my God, this isn't scalable. This isn't work. These executives are challenging these assumptions because they have these other scalable avenues for advertising that they can sell. And that kind of scared me to pull out and not be patient, versus, looking at the long game of it and looking at, well, what is the best way to overcome those challenges or find a way to sustain it until the market was ready for it.
Okay, that's great. Do you do you feel that in that the client needs to be proactive with you? Is that one of the lessons you've learned is like, don't be hands off, be more proactive with me, be engaged with me, and be patient. But if you're consistent and persistent, just like in business, you show up, you're consistent, you're persistent. Wouldn't you say those are the keys to success in your world is that engagement, consistency, persistence, caring about what you're doing with your clients and the client cares about what you're doing and really building that relationship? I'd have to imagine your relationships go pretty deep with your clients because to me, a successful client would want to get involved and take it seriously and say, hey, this is something I'm going to measure, I'm going to invest in to be the best I can be. What's your feeling about that with your clients and what you see out there?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that what you just said is applies to anything in business. it's no different with social media, and I think it's a critical point to success, because it's also with our clients, we don't want our clients to be reliant on us. We want our clients to flourish and be able to be successful without us. But it's on them to participate. We'll meet you halfway, but you got to meet us the other half. I mean, we've had clients where we create this amazing strategy for them, and then they complain and like, this is BS. This doesn't work. And then we asked them, well, what did you do? And they didn't do anything. They literally did nothing. They didn't even create a single piece of content. And yet they're blaming us for those problems. And I think that that's in any line of business is it's, sad that a lot of people don't take ownership of their own stuff that they need to go through, uh, and don't really look at themselves in the mirror of what's holding them back from success. And like I can tell you in my career, I've hired a lot of like marketing agencies and things to round out our strategy or my business or things I'm working on that ultimately don't work out. But I see that as a learning experience, and I take that learning. It may not be the right fit, and it doesn't mean that they don't know what they're doing. Like sometimes we've just hired, a marketing agency or something like that just wasn't the right fit. And I had to eat whatever we spent on that, but that was a learning experience, and I take that learning to apply to the next thing and apply to the next thing.
No, that's a great point, and I want to just kind of expand on that personally. Is that if you have a third-party resource that you're working with, and it could be any business, it could be in Brendan's world, it could be my world, anyone. If you're not on the same page, or you feel your values don't align, there's plenty of other people out there that can provide a great service. So don't be afraid to pull the trigger and start looking and look for alternatives. And that's a good lesson to learn, is that there is no perfect box. There's no perfect hole to fit a peg into. Things change, people evolve, relationships change. And the best thing is, if you're true to yourself and you know exactly what you want to get out of life, go find it, go grab it, and move forward with it. So I appreciate the knowledge, Brendan. So we're going to wrap up with our three questions, okay? And obviously, everyone, he is overseas right now. He's out of the country. But if he was in our studio at Laguna Beach, I would say, okay, Brendan, lay on the couch, close your eyes. How old are you? Because you look so young, but I think you're older than me. How old are you?
42.
Oh, okay. You are younger than me. Okay. For some reason, I thought you were a little bit older than me, but
Well,
that's
it's
great. You look
you know
great
what's
for
funny?
42, by the way.
It's so funny you say that. I'll just tell you a funny story. Is I met a woman at a conference, and we were having a conversation, and I told her I was 42, and then she Googled my name, and Google says I'm 53.
Right,
And then she's
exactly.
like, "Oh my God, is this guy a liar?" It's like it was kind of shocking but funny at the same time.
I thought you were in your mid 50s. I think one of them said like you were 57. And I
Yeah,
looked at him, I'm like I got to ask him, like, cuz I'm into health, okay?
so
And
am
I
I,
and so
but I'm not
well
that good.
well you could share what you do, because I looked, I'm like, man, if he's 57, I'm 52. When I'm 57, I want to look as good as him. Like, I got to ask him what he's doing, like what's the potion he's taking or whatever. But you look great, by the way. But I'm glad to see that you're in line with what I thought you looked like. So it's kind of funny.
Yeah, we're trying to get it changed, but it's not happening quick.
You're an old soul, they'll say. So
Yeah.
so you're laying on the couch, okay? And now you're a 42-year-old seasoned man. You've been through a lot of experience. You've had success in business. You can look back and go back and talk to your 16-year-old self and have a conversation. What advice are you giving your 16-year-old self now that you are the Brendan Kane who's 42, interacted with a lot of people, have a lot of experience under your belt? What would you share to yourself at that age?
Well, I think the first thing is, and it's kind of it's related to the work I've done on myself personally, and the challenges that I faced growing up and things like that. Is the first important thing is you are good enough, and just knowing that, because in business, as you are going to face so many obstacles and so many challenges, and sometimes you get hit with these obstacles and challenges, and you start to question, are you good enough? Do you have the ability to achieve the success that you have? I think number two is, and we talked about it briefly before, is just patience. And that's something I struggled with very early on in my career, and I still kind of struggle with a little bit. Is things take time, and just be in it for the right reasons, and just be patient with it to yield those results. And then, I think the third one would be, you find the smartest possible people you can and just surround yourself with them. Find people that are just way smarter than you, and just surround yourself with those right people and just learn as much as humanly possible from them.
That's a great point. And do you feel that social media tarnishes the patience because people see the success, or what I call maybe the fake success out there in the ether, that people look at and say, "Well, I want that, and I want it as fast as possible." That you lose patience. I think social media has a big influence on people where patience is kind of lacking out there.
Yeah, I think that social media contributes to it, but I think that there's an issue with patience just in general business, and I think that that's why so many entrepreneurs don't stick with it. I remember a funny story that about Tim Ferriss, where he was speaking about his book, The 4 Hour Work Week, and somebody stood up, or he said that this happens multiple times, and it frustrates the hell out of him because it's clear that they don't understand the intent of the book, and they don't really read the book, but they always stand up and ask, "Do you really work 4 hours a week?" And it's kind of like that mindset, and we get those types of comments with my first book, 1 Million Followers. The book is about how I generated 1 million followers in 30 days, and how my partners and friends have collectively done hundreds of billions of views and giving a well-rounded experience. The book is not how you can generate 1 million followers in 30 days. It's what you can learn from us from that standpoint. And I can always determine the negative comments based upon somebody that's read the book that hasn't read the book. But I think that that lack of patience, yes, it's fueled by social media, but I think it was already there, because anything to get good at in life is challenging. And it's whether you're willing to stick with those challenges to really yield the results that you're going after.
Yeah, it's a great point. That desire, that persistence is so key in anything in life. And like you said, sticking with it. A lot of people, there's like the goal line, and they won't go past the goal line. And that's what prevents them from success that I see. It's how bad you want it. That's what I say to people. How bad do you want to get what you want? How committed you are. And that word has really come up and resonated with me for a long time, is how committed are you? Because if you're committed to something, you'll get it, you'll obtain it. And I see a lot of people have so many fear, Brendan, where they're worried about what third parties say to you. What are families going to think if I do this? What if I go into business? What if I have this relationship? What are people going to say about me? And if people can get rid of that fear and just be genuine with themselves and what they want in life, life is so much better. And that's really what it's about. So the next question I have for you is, God forbid it's our last day on earth, okay? And you and I are sitting down for our last meal. It's your choice. What are we eating?
Guacamole.
Okay. Anything else? Just have a spoon, or is a
No, with
guy
like
is a guy
chips or
coming to the
something like
table
that.
with the
I don't know.
mortar and pestle? What are we doing?
I'm addicted to avocado and guacamole.
Okay, cool. Do we get chips with that,
Yeah,
or
definitely,
okay.
definitely
All
chips with
right.
what.
Are we washing that down with anything?
I am addicted to sparkling water. That's
Okay.
basically all I
Do
drink.
you? I do as well. I love it as well. Throw a little lime in, I'm good.
Yeah.
So in our I Own It studios, we have a grand piano, which you can't see, a drum set, and 6 electric guitars. If you were in studio with me, and you can bring in a band or a musician that is living or deceased to play us a song, it's your choice. Who are you bringing in to play us a song?
That is a very difficult question to answer, but I would probably say the Rolling Stones. I'll go with that
Oh,
one.
baby, that'd be great. Any particular song?
Oh, that's hard. I don't know. I couldn't pick that.
Okay. I think if You Got Me Rockin', they were playing in here, the windows would blow out. It would be so wild to have them in here. So
Yeah.
that'd be enjoyable. First of all, I'm very grateful for you to have you on our show. You're a wealth of knowledge, and if people don't know Brendan, I've been following him for quite some time, and he has great stuff, great content, really intriguing. He's different than most people. He really understands the social media game, so definitely check him out. What is the best way to stay engaged with you and follow you? Is it a website, brendankane.com? Can you share with us how I know how to follow you? How do people follow you that don't
Yeah,
know you?
if people want to get in touch with myself and my team, they can go to hookpoint.com. Uh, they can subscribe to our newsletter on our website, my website, or on LinkedIn. They can follow. We do a lot of content breakdowns uh, on Instagram. We also have a private mastermind where we're breaking down content virality every single week. If they want to learn more about that, then go to goviral.hookpoint.com.
Great. Well, thank you. If you want to continue and follow the Ben Reinberg I Own It show, drop kick the lower right-hand button on YouTube and click subscribe. If you want to follow me personally, go to benreinberg.com to learn more content about me, as well as be able to log on to all the social media platforms and follow us as well. If you're interested in commercial real estate, go to alliancecgc.com. Once again, that's alliancecgc.com for all your needs on commercial real estate to learn about it. If you're interested in investing in our brand new fund we launched, the Alliance Medical Property Fund, feel free to go on our company website for more information. Brendan Kane, you own it. And thank you very much for joining us. And we'll hopefully see you soon. And next time we want you back, we want you in the studio. So thank you again.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure connecting with you and everybody that tuned in for this.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the I Own It podcast with Ben Reinberg. To hear our past episodes and connect with Ben, visit benreinberg.com.